So we're going to be doing quiz game today. The requirements are we should render a question, be able to select the answer, highlight red is wrong answer, highlight green is correct answer, show the results, and be able to start again. You will find the code later on this link. So let's go with it really. So first thing.
When can we join your Visual Studio?
I just sent a link to the Google to the Hangout.
I don't see it. Like here in here. Oh, okay, hold on. Okay, good.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah. Right. Can you see my code editor? Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's start. So I already have a little bit of a structure in here. I have my index HTML, my script.js, and style CSS. Obviously, it's up to you how you name them really. And I have like a very basic HTML structure in the index. So let's quickly walk through it. Doc type and HTML, you know that already. Head in here we setting basically kind of how the page should be scaled. So basically what we're saying in here, we would like the page to be responsive depending on the device width and the scale. This initial scale is 1. We have one external style sheet today, which is the normalized CSS. That I just added that just to kind of have like a normal styles. If you remember, we talked about resets and stuff, so this is pretty much it. It doesn't add any new styles to the page. It just kind of resets all the styles to make sure that they look the same across browsers. Then we have our style sheet, title, and then in here we have just page and container, just some kind of structure, and then our script. So first things first. If you remember last time, what we did was to create the actual HTML structure of the question. So basically the UI that we want to create before we actually start kind of interacting with it with JavaScript. So let's start with that. So let's do a, oh, actually, let me just start the browser as well. Try this, nope.
When we are following live, do we also need to do it on our side, or does it go
In the terminal? No, you don't have to do it now.
My Visual Studio seems to be, it says join in collaboration session, sign out.
It's not joining, or what?
Let me paste this error. Okay, I just put it there in the chat at Slack.
On Slack. I guess you need to sign in somehow first. I don't use this that much, so I'm not sure.
Okay, let me try again with the link that
Right, so in the meantime, let's continue. Right, let me just put this down here. Right, so now you see that we have our page in here. Let's just put something on the page so we know that we actually have the page there. So let's do h1, hello. Refresh. Oh, fuck. Sorry, I pressed the wrong refresh window. Let's do it again. No. Right, so we have our hello in there. Good. So we know that it's serving, it's working. And let's continue. So what do we want? We want the application to render a question. So question, obviously, it's going to have some kind of title, so the actual question, and a couple of answers. We don't know how many answers, but let's say 4. So in here Accept. Are you in, Ricardo?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. So in here, let's change the h4, why not? And then the question, so you can say whatever. This is a question. And after that, we will have some kind of answers. So the answers, so we have our question, and then with the answers, what we're gonna do with them is we're gonna create a list of answers, right? So we would say we will have a list. Inside of the list, we will have some kind of answer. So we will say answer 1. Answer 2, answer 3, answer 4. So 4 answers. Okay. So now let's have a look at it. Yep. So we have our question and 4 answers. So that should be it. Now, what else do we need to know? We need to know what question is this? So 1 to x, right? So we will create some kind of header. Let's say, let's call it header. Or let's call it pagination. Right? So pagination. And then inside of it, we will have the number of questions. So we'll say this is a question number, which will be 0 at the beginning, and yeah, that's it. So question number, let's say, yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. So this is the question number, and that's that. So we can start styling it. Yep, let's start styling it. So this is kind of familiar to everybody already, right? I just created a bunch of HTML markup just to kind of spec out what we will have on the page. So we will have the count of the question, we will have the question itself, and then answer for every question. Does that make sense? Yeah, cool. So now let's style it a little bit. So we will say, okay, let's do the pagination, which will be just a number. For now, let's just do the container. So the container, let's make it nicely in the middle. So you can say it will be margin 40 pixels auto, for example. Yeah, let's do that. And width will be 90%. So that should center it a little bit. Yeah. And if we do this for different clients, different sizes of screen, we should probably make sure that it kind of like on the if you look at, if I put a border in here, you will see that it's quite large on a browser. We don't really need that, so we can say max width. So maximum width of the whole thing is going to be 700 pixels. Right, so this is looking a little bit better. Sorry. And that's it. Yeah. So that's our container, and now the list of the question. So we have the question. Let's center it for now. So we will say, well, let's just do this for now. So text align center. So we have the question actually centered. And then we will do our list. So the list should be unstyled again, like we did last time. So let's just name it somehow. So if we do class, and we can say answers. Then in here we'll do answers. List style none. So that should remove the styles. We should remove the margin as well. If you don't understand anything, just shout, please.
Do we want to make it a checklist? Or maybe not for now.
We could make a checklist potentially, but I mean checklist. If you would go with form elements, you would probably want to make it a radio, right? Because the checklist you could select multiple options, while with radio you can select only one.
Yeah.
But in this case, it doesn't really matter because we're not really submitting it. It's doesn't
okay, so
really matter.
Clicking on the answer that works.
Yeah, exactly. So I think in that case it would be okay. So now in the with the options, let's display it as a grid. So can do that, and it can be basically one. So let's I want to have the answers one beside each other. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So we can say this will be a grid layout, right? Yeah, grid. Sorry, not grid layout, grid template. And it will be 1 and 1. And is that now be enough? Yeah. So now we have the answers in there. That's fine. We want to put some
R again.
Sorry.
What's the 1FR again? Guess it's the sign.
It just kind of shows you how you space them like between each other basically. So you just basically one FR is kind of like a fragment. So 1, 1, 1, 1 basically. Let's say.
Remember, Thomas, that comes from the class where we covered the grid. So notice that line 13 he's displaying grid. So that enables him to just put in there the number of columns that he wants to use in equal size, 1 and 1. If he will gonna be using a third column, it would be 1FR, 1FR, 1FR.
Yes, okay, got it now. So it's the template for the column. Okay.
Yeah. So how it's kind of split in the columns.
Got it.
We will probably want to do some kind of gap between them as well. So we can just say gap, and it will be, I don't know, 2 a.m., 1 a.m. So some kind of gap of it, so they are not too close to each other. I think that looks alright. And what else can we do with this? For now, let's remove this text align center. I just want to see how. It's not refreshing for some. Okay, I'll just leave it there for now.
Maybe a margin left or something.
Yeah, we will align everything later anyway. But for now, it's just let's just leave it like that. Cool. So we have that aligned for some reason. Really? Sorry, I don't really work with VS Code normally in my day job, so I'm a bit always finding my feet in here. Right. So the each of the options, let's style them somehow as well. So let's make them into some kind of boxes with a background. So we can say, so it's our answers, and inside of it is Lee. So we can, let's just target it that way for now. So answers Lee, and we can say they will be there was some kind of border. Oop. And background as well. Let's see how that looks like. Yeah, so we have our 4 answers now. Let's give them some padding. And let's make them round as well. Okay, so we have now our 4 answers basically. Yeah. So now we want to, well, let's give them some hover as well. Why not? Let's search hover. And let's change the background. Something a bit more like the. So now when I hover over it, it will change the background. So it kind of has like a better of a user interaction basically. Let's make the pointer as well. So cursor pointer. So it looks like a selectable thing. Is everything clear so far? Or do you see something that you don't understand?
Seems clear.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Cool. So that's fine. Now let's do, so we have that. So I think, just so we don't spend too much time on this, I think we can basically start making them work. Actually, we need also the success and error states, right? So in here it says highlight red is wrong answer, highlight green is correct answer. So let's create some kind of highlight for the success and error. Let's do a animation for this, like a blinking animation. So we can do keyframes, and we can say success, and it would be, let's start at the beginning. Background will be something like green, and color will be well, let's just leave the color out for now, and then 100%. And the background will be, actually the background should be the same. I imagine it should be the same like as you hover. You'll see how it behaves, you can always change it. Right, so now we have the keyframe for success. And we can apply it to, so when we want to apply it, we want to...
Background color for 100% as well?
Yes, sorry. It doesn't really matter as much because, you know, the background would take just the color and it will be fine. It's more...
Okay.
It's important to specify what background you want if you have multiple backgrounds. So you could potentially have something like background image and, you know, some kind of image and background color at the same time. So if, for example, the image is some kind of transparent image, you could still change the background behind it, let's say. So, you know, in that case, it's important that you say image or color. If you have just one, if you have just like a solid color background, then this would work as well. But yeah, you're right. Just to keep it consistent, it's good to do that. So now to apply it, this animation, we would have to, so let's select one answer that it would be like a success, so class success, and we need to create a new one which will be answers success, and it will be animation success, and let's make it quite fast, and it will be the normal one, is in, is out, 3 repetitions or 4, 3 repetitions, and we'll play forwards. So now, hopefully, yeah, so you can see how it kind of blinks. Right. And it looks a bit strange, and might be because I need to swap these 2 colors maybe. Yeah, it looks a little bit better. And it actually keeps the color at the end, which I like. So now we have our kind of animation where it blinks when you click on the right answer. Let's do error as well.
Thomas, I'm not getting that part of the CSS. So line 28,
Yeah.
we're setting up the hover.
Yeah.
And then line 32, we're setting up success. What is success? Is it
success is
a part of CSS?
No, success is a class. We just created this class and we added it to this element.
Oh, so you're creating the class in there?
Yeah.
Okay, let me go back to the code.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, and then what is the concept of keyframes? I forgot about it.
So keyframes are just a way to make animations. So every animation, because animations can be quite complex, in keyframes you can define exactly how the animation should work. So
basically you're defining you're going to use keyframes in the success class, and that's what you're doing then inside. Like, what does the 0 and the 100% means?
So the 0 and 100% means that means basically what the state of the animation should be at 0% and what the state of the animation should be at 100%. So it starts. Let's say the animation starts at this color and it finishes at this color.
Okay. I see. Okay, I got it.
So we could have as many steps as we would like in here.
And then the animation it's enabled. Okay, what is line 33?
33? This one? 33?
Yeah.
So that's basically saying this class, so the success class, will be using an animation, and the kind of definition of the animation or the blueprint of the animation is this one, right? And then all the other values. So this is the speed, let's say, this is the ease and out, that's how it kind of behaves in a linear way, how many times we repeat it, and it plays forwards, so it goes from 0 to 100%. Maybe this might be a little bit confusing, so if we change it to blink, right, so you know that the class name is success, but the keyframe for the animation is called differently. This basically just references this.
Okay.
Yeah, makes sense? Cool. Let's continue. So now we have success. Let's create error as well. So answer error, and it's basically going to be the same thing. We're just gonna use different animation. So blink error. And we're gonna go from the gray one into red. So if I change this to, if I put this one in here, you should see, class answer error, blink error, sorry. So now we should see the answer 2 blinking red. We don't. Blink error, blink error. Oh, sorry, answers. Yeah, so now you can see, now we have our two animations. One is for success, one is for error. So if you select the correct answer or the wrong answer, you can see that I have to add the class to the elements to actually run the animation. So that's how you trigger animation, right? So if you add the class, and this is kind of like a hint for what we're going to be doing next. If you add the class to an element, it will trigger the animation, let's say. So all the elements, all the answers are going to start without any class, right? So it will be just like this. And then as the user clicks on them, it will add that class to it. So if I just show you very quickly, if I add some class to this, like test, right, and then I will say in here query selector test, right, and then I will test event listener, click. So I'm adding new event listener to this element, and what I will do in here is I will just add the class with the animation. So class list not and success. Right, so now if I click on this, you see that it adds the green color. Let's improve it a little bit more. So we can say if test element class list contains success, then we will remove it, otherwise we will add it. So basically we kind of toggle the class on and off. I wonder, is there a oh, there is a toggle. Okay, so we don't have to even do this, we can just do toggle. Right, so now if I go back to this page, you see no kind of UI on this, no animation. If I click on it, it will get green, and if I click on it again, it will disappear. Okay, does that make sense? If somebody is not clear on this, please tell me.
Yeah, all clear.
Yeah.
Clear.
So triggering the animation by actually adding the class of the animation to the element. Okay. So that's fine. So now we have the animations. I think we can start with the actual JavaScript implementation, just so we go more into JavaScript this time. I think last time we did quite a bit of CSS. So let's create the questions first. So in our script, let's just define questions.
Are we going to put the questions just on there, or are we going to put them on the on the server?
Eventually, if we have enough time, we will implement it through an API. There is an API where you can get questions. So we can do that, but for now let's just hard code them in here. So we actually do the whole implementation, and then we can implement it with the API if we need to. So first question, and let's say question. Answers will be let's just we need to kind of think of some structure. So what I will do is answers, I'll say poor, very well, amazing, good, right? And I will say in here that the correct answer is index 1. Very well. Okay, so that's going to be our correct answer. Right. So that's our question. So now let's put that question actually on the page. We need to basically, what we did in here, so we have this is our question kind of markup. What we did in here, that's what we want to put on the page, right? So let's do that. So I would probably wrap this into another div and just say question. Because then we can handle it as a kind of standalone thing. We don't, because we have this pagination on top of it as well. So let's select our question element, our question wrapper. So const question element equals document query selector question. So this is the reference to that element for us. And now in here, we need to make sure that we put that question into this place. Well, actually, we will create the whole markup. So we need to make sure that we create this title and this kind of markup with the answers. So so we can do, let's create it by function. So const, yeah, we can do it like that. Create question, or no, let's call it render question. And in here, we can actually pass the question in, why not? Right, so we will say question element, and we can just use inner HTML for now. So inner HTML, and inside of it we will have our h4. And inside of that we will have our question.question. Right, so I'm taking this param, which will be basically this whole object, and I'm taking the question from it and putting it in here. Okay. So now what we should see is, if we do render question, hopefully we should see no options and we should just see how are you. Okay, so now we are already rendering into our markup basically. The markup at this point is now just for reference really, because it will be overwritten by, let me just move this in here.
Why did it overwrite all your answers?
Because
you wrote the question class in your HTML.
Yeah, so I'm selecting everything in the question and I'm basically changing the whole in the HTML, so it gets rid of all the answers.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. Let me just put this in here. Hopefully we can do this. So now we just basically take this. I think I prefer, if you remember what we did last time when we cloned the markup, that's what I probably prefer. But let's do it this way today. So in here we have answers, and in here we can do, let's try a little bit of, I'm not sure this is gonna work, but we can try. So question, answers, and we can map through them. And we can return a leap. Yeah, and inside of it is going to be, oh, this is probably not gonna work. Well, let's try. Inside of it is going to be question, oh, sorry, answer. Let's see if this works. Oh, it did work, look at that. So we have our answers, we have this comma in there, which I'm missing some comma somewhere. So
So can you repeat again how?
That's fine.
So the map is going through all of them?
Yeah, so the map is going through the answers.
Oh, because it's a question.answers.map. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then adding a lead to each of them.
Yes, and then it creates a lead for each of them.
But then you lost your grid structure.
Yeah, it's because I have these commas in there, and that's because I am, so this is basically printing out an array, right? It's not printing out one by one. So what we can do is,
isn't this yeah, no, sorry.
Sorry, yeah.
I was gonna ask if it was not this little, if you look, there is a, no, I thought it was this little thing next to li.
No, it's the, so because this map, it will return a array, right? So this function will return array. So what we could potentially do is we could join all the results by a space, let's say, and then we should get rid of the comma. Yeah, you see. It's not the best way to do it, but for now, let's just leave it like this. This will at least give us the option that if we
okay, so what the map did is actually joined each answer by adding a comma between the answers, and now that you have this join and then put like a space.
Yeah, so
removing that,
without the join, this will return an array, right? And when you put an array into HTML, it will automatically serialize it. So what it means is it will convert it into string, which is kind of comma separated string basically.
Got it.
So instead of doing that, I said I will convert it to string myself, and I'm just gonna put space in there instead of not. Well, I could put just nothing in there, to be honest. It doesn't really matter. That should work as well. Yeah. This way, you know, we could also write them all out. So I could manually write, you know, all four out. But then if we decide that one question will have 6 of them, 6 of answers instead of 4, then this will actually work as well, right? So it's very dynamic kind of, right?
Nice.
Because you're doing it through the map, so it doesn't really matter how many answers you have in there. It will work. Let me just split it. So this is, you don't really need to do this, but what I'm kind of used to, I would split this out. So I would say render answers. And that would basically do this.
Why do you prefer to do that?
It's just to make this the render question a little bit less kind of wordy, you know. So instead of all this, I can just now do render answers.
Got it.
And just put the question answers in there. Oh, right. So this is a little bit easy to read, basically. And that should still work. Yeah. Right. So now we need to. What is our next move? So we have the question, we have all the answers. So now we need to make sure that we know which one is actually correct when you press on it. So let's do, yeah, I think we can do that. So for now, you can see that basically the only thing within the answer, for now at least, is just the text of the answer. So this text will match whatever this text is. So we can potentially or maybe we should do, yeah, we can do that. Yeah. So what we can do is we can add a click element, click event on the list, and we can listen to any click on the answers and then just check the target for it and check if the answer was correct. So let's do that. So we can say question element
Add event listener.
sorry?
I was going to say dot add event listener.
Yeah, but I think we're gonna be listening only on the answers. So I will do.
So you need to do like a for loop and going through each answer.
You can do just one event listener, but not on the, because I don't want to listen to the actual question, to the H4. I just want to listen to the list. So I can do question element get query select answers, okay. And then I can do answers element element listener click, and we will take the event and we will console log the target.
So it's answers on line 21 with an
On
yeah.
Thank you. So now if I refresh this, let's open the console as well. If I click on one answer, you'll see that it will give me that I'm clicking on this one. If I click on this one, it's giving me that I'm clicking on this one. So now, because I have this, I can actually take the text. So I can say my selected answer, let's say, is, and I can say event target
Number, no? Or ID.
inner oh, okay, let's just do an HTML. So now this should give me the selected answer. Right. And then what do we want to do with that? We want to check which one is it in the question. So we want to basically check in this question what is the index of that answer. So we will say answer index question answers index of select answer. Right, so that will basically this will basically give us 0, 1, 2, 3 depending on which one we selected. So let's see if that's correct. So if we do console log answer index, let's log out the selected answer as well. So now we should see that if I click on poor, oh sorry, not a function, of course. Okay. So you see, I click on poor and I will see, you can't see this. Is that better? So you see poor 0, very well 1, amazing 2, good 3. Right? So now I know which one I'm clicking on and I know what the index is. So now the last thing to do is we have this correct answer in there. So we need to basically compare if our answer index is the same as correct answer. So we can say if the answer index is the same as question correct answer, then what do we want to do with that? Anybody?
We wanted to add a class to the CSS saying success.
Yes. So we want to take the target from this click, so basically what we clicked on, and if it is correct, then we want to add the success class. So we will say event target success. And if it's not correct, then we will want to do the opposite. So we will want to do an error. So hopefully, let me just check if this is see, so poor will give me a red one, amazing will give me a red one, good will give me a red one, and very well will give me a green one. Okay. The actual toggling if you want it to be there or not. It really depends. I can also, I mean, if you want the color to stay, I can also change the colors in here. So it starts at the green one and finishes on the gray one, and that way we wouldn't have to toggle the class necessarily. But it really depends on, so if I press this now, see, it will go away, but I cannot click on it again because it was already applied, basically. So yeah, so it depends on your requirements. Like what do they ask you? Do they want the color to stay, or do they want it to go away? Do you want to allow multiple clicks and so on? So it really depends. We can play around with it later, but for now let's just leave it like this. I'm quite happy with it. It will mark the answer that you already tried, right? So if I click on, oh, did I change something that I shouldn't have changed? Let me just refresh. Why is my red one not working? Blink, blink, what did I change? This should be working, and it was working a second ago. Let me just log something out. So do console log, select answer, answer index. Yeah, so that's all good. So if it doesn't, then class list add error. Yeah, and they have it. So it's not running our animation for some reason. I don't know what did I change in here. Yeah. Might just have to restart it or something. Not really sure what's going on in there. It should be working. The success is working. The error is not working. It's adding the class, but it doesn't change the color. But it was working a second ago. It happens sometimes. Very strange. It actually has the no, it doesn't have the class at all. Oh, again, typo. Right, so now when I click on it, it will highlight the wrong ones, and then it will show you the right one, and it will kind of keep the color on the ones that you already tried. So quite happy with that, so I'm gonna leave it at that for now. Let's just go here and see if we can refactor something in here. So one thing that I'm interested in, do you know how could I write this a little bit better or a little bit shorter than this? Anybody, any ideas? Have you been using the ternary
the one with the
expressions yet?
two question mark?
Yeah. So instead of writing it like this, what I could do is I could just write one, and I could say, this is my condition, right? So if it's actually correct, then apply success. If it's not correct, apply error. Right? So I would kind of avoid the whole duplication of this call, let's say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the ternary. So we can write it like that. And otherwise, I think it looks okay. Yeah. That looks alright. So that's pretty much what we should have done, right? So we know that you can select it. What else was there? We want to show result and be able to start the game again. So okay, so what we want to do is we want to move to the next question after you select one answer. So you're not going to be able to get to this state, but once you select one answer, you will move to the next question. So let's add another question. Which will be let's do 10, 30, 80, and 100. Right, and the correct answer is going to be 0, 1, 2. Okay. So now we go into the first question. So we rendered the first question. Now after you, so what we want to do theoretically, once you select an answer, right, we want to basically trigger this whole thing again. So render another question with the next one, right? So what we will want to do is we would want to store where are we at. So we would want to basically say our current question. So we will say current question is 0. That's the first one, right? So instead of 0, we would be rendering current question. That's our index of our current question. And then every time you select an answer, we would want to increase that. So we would want to say render a question, and it would be the current question. Well, actually, what we need to do is we need to increase it by 1, and then render it. So this way, you should see that when I click on something in here, oh, sorry, it should be let.
Change it to let's now.
Yeah. So when I click on this, marknet undefined. What? Current question 0. Another question. Current question. Oh, sorry. Of course. I was just passing number instead of the actual question. Right. So that should be it. So if I press on poor, I will go to the next one. Now you can see. Now I can go further because we don't have any more, so we need to handle that as well. But you can see that if I click on poor now, it just jumps to the next one. We don't actually see the animation. So we will want to postpone this, right? We want to postpone this rendering of the question. So does anybody remember how to postpone?
You set the timeout or something?
Yep. So we can do set timeout. And for here, we can do, actually pretty neat trick is you can do this. You can do render question. I just found out recently, so I want to play with it. If I wait for 300 milliseconds, for example, and then I will say this. So the signature of set timeout, what it does is it will take the function that it should run after the timeout is done, and then you can pass a list of parameters that you pass to that function basically. So you don't have to do, because normally what we would have to do is it would be something like this, right? But we don't have to do that. You can just do it like this. I just found out recently, but let's see if it actually works. Right. So you see that. So now we can see actually the animation. You might ask, why did I choose 300? I chose it because our animation is 200 milliseconds. So I thought, okay, 200 plus a little bit of time after that, so you know the eye kind of notices it, and then move to the next question. So now you can see if I select poor, it will run the animation and then move to the next one. I think it's still.
And again, the set timeout formula. So you have render question.
Yeah.
But you didn't put it as a function. You just put it as a.
Yeah, I just put the reference to it in there. Yeah. So I'm not actually calling it. I'm not actually executing it. I'm just putting the reference in. Then you put the time, how long you want to wait, and then you put the param that should be passed into the function itself. So this is literally identical to this. Right, so these two things are exactly the same. Oh, so, well, actually, yeah.
So I understand the second one. The first one, okay, it's just a different.
Yeah, it's just different way of writing it. Yeah. Otherwise,
it's a bit confusing, the first one, isn't it?
well, you know, it is confusing now, because once you start learning about apply and bind, then you will kind of understand why this works the way that it works, and call. So, but these ones are a little bit more advanced. You don't learn them at the beginning. So once you start learning these, you will understand why it works. But I can tell you that, like, I've been always using it this way, but now I discovered this way, and I actually like it, because, you know, not always you want to, like, it's a little bit annoying that you always have to wrap it in an anonymous function. This is much easier to use, and you can pass as many params as you want. You can do param2 and param3, and it's just a little bit nicer, kind of neater way of writing it. There's no advantage over this one. It's just a neater way of writing it, basically.
Got it.
Right, so now we have that. I increased it to 500. If I refresh that now and click on it, yep, that looks a little bit better. So now we will want to make sure that we don't actually move to the next question if there is no next question. So what we will do is we will say the length. Yeah, so we will say if the questions length, so we're checking how many questions there are, is, and the current question is going to be 1. So if it's going to be more or equal than current question, then navigate to the next one. So this should be okay. Let's try. So if I press on poor, goes to the next one. If I'm pressing this one, it goes there. So maybe it's just more. So yeah. So now it's not gonna go to the next one. So I'm not gonna. I don't see any errors, basically. So what we want to do in here is, if on else, we will want to say something like render result, which is our next thing, show result. So that means how many did you actually get correctly, and how many did you get wrong. So in here, let's say we will define a new function, which would be render result. Oh, sorry. And let's just do console log. So how can we keep track of how many correct and wrong answers did you get? Well, let's say correct answers. So we will say let correct answers, and it will be 0. Right? So we define this kind of on a global scope, and then we can come in here and we will say so in here we put the condition in here because we were just changing the class, but now obviously we need to do more stuff, so we can revert it back because we need to do more work. So we will just put this back in here. it might feel like, you know, I'm kind of redoing what I've done already, but this is the progress of how you basically, you know, design your applications. You need to go through these iterations, otherwise, you know, you cannot design everything from the top of your head in a best sense, basically, in the best way. So correct answers plus plus. Cool. And then in here, when we render the result, we can just do console log, and we can say correct results.
Would you be able to keep the ternary like and just maybe rather than have two functions, one function correct and function incorrect, and then have more than one lines in each function then, or no?
What do you mean for each function?
No, so I meant like rather than have this if else, like keep the way you put it, but just if it's a yes, then just run the function called correct, and then
you could
put the ternary, but then it's just
you could potentially do that. You could have the ternary in here, and then you could have another if where you would just say, you know, if it was basically just these two lines, but then, you know, repeating the same condition twice might be a bit, you know.
Okay.
I wouldn't probably do that. I would probably just do this. It's kind of, I would say it's kind of usual that you would try to kind of write things as short as possible and unreadable, and then as you kind of extend your application, if something is to be expanded more, like we did just in here, then you do that. But you kind of start with the shortest, basically. So let's see if this works. So if I press on poor, nothing, and if I press on 100, nothing, correct answer 0. And if I go very well, and then 100, correct answer is 1, very well, 80, correct answer is 2. So that works fine. And we will want to display a result. So instead of a question, let's try a result. So let's delete this inside the question, and we can do a result where I mean, we could put it inside of the question, but we don't really want to do that because it's not kind of semantically correct, right? So what we would want to do rather than that would be actually remove everything from the question. So question element, just to make sure that it's empty. And then instead we would add something to our result. Right, so you would have a new element in here, which would be result. There are about a million ways that you could approach this, but let's just do this for now. So this is our result. How would we like our result to look like? Let's say that it will be some big text, and it will say, you know, 5 out of 10. Yeah, correct. Something like that. So let's just keep it simple for now. So basically we will see this kind of thing, right? So 5 out of 10 answers correct. So now we can go into, let's just do H1. Actually, I can just do this. So it's aligned as well. And then in here, we can say question element in HTML nothing, and then result. Let's just keep the reference to it as well. So this result. Result, so we get in the result element, and then inside of the result element, we will say in HTML equals h1, and we will have something like this. So we want to say something in the sense of this. So we will say 5 will be our correct answers. called correct answers, right? Correct answers, yeah. And this will be basically the full count of the questions. So questions blank. Okay, so that should give us the what we're looking for. Let me just remove this from here. Actually, we can remove this as well. Right, so now we go poor, nothing, 100, nothing. Oh, didn't show us anything. Let's just do 180, nope. Right, so result element, result.
But in HTML, it shouldn't be full capital letters, no? No.
Yes, you are correct. You are absolutely correct. So that's that. And also I noticed that we will need to set the timeout in here as well. So let's just set the same timeout for now. We can refactor it later because that might be useful. Because we already have some duplication in here. We have this number is the same. We use the same command and stuff. So we might want to refactor this somehow. But for now, let's just leave it like this. So if I press poor, no, 100, no, 0 out of 2 answers correct. If we start again, poor, and 80, it was still 1 out of 2 answers correct. So that's good. So we have the result. The next requirement would be able to start the game again. So any ideas how can we do that?
Yeah. Oh. I'm always keeping the floor, so I'll leave someone else to jump in.
You need to run the function again, or the first function that you did?
Which one?
The one that we started before. So the render not the render question. Go up. Yeah, it's the render question. No?
Yeah. So you would start the render question, and what would be the what would be the param?
So you would put the param back to 0?
Yeah, so you need to change the current question back to 0, so it starts from, starts again. So in here, let's do a button. Let's add a button in there.
Try again.
And yeah, try again. And then on the button, so you would say what is it? Result and then we do button element not element listener click, and on click of this we would say set the current question to 0, so we're starting from beginning, and
correct answer on the count of current answers as well should be back to 0.
Yep, so correct answer should be back to 0, and we also need to empty the result itself. So result element is going to be empty, and I think that should do it.
You're not rendering answers. Oh no, because it's already in the render question.
Yeah, the answers are rendered as a part of the question. So somewhere here. So that should.
But is this not gonna delete your answers anyway? Why do you need to clear the answers? That's all.
I'm creating the result element, not the question element. So
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm clearing this one just so we don't see how
yeah,
many.
of course, yeah, makes sense.
So if I refresh this, so very well, and 80, and we have 2 out of 2 answers correct. Try again, and we're going from the beginning, right? So very well, 100, 1 out of 2, amazing, 30, 0 out of 2. Okay, so that's restarting the whole process basically.
Why in the button did you put the square and 0? I missed that. Sorry, when
so yes, so I'm selecting. I'm not using the query selector. I'm using the get elements by tag name because I didn't give it any class or anything.
Okay.
And you know, as the kind of name suggests, it says elements, so it will always return an array. So you need. I'm just taking the first one because I know it's still going to be just one.
Okay.
Okay, we can style the button a little bit as well. So let's just do. Result and button. And we can say the background is going to be blue and it's going to be a little bit round. If we have blue background, then maybe we should have white color. And we don't want any border. Right, so that's that. And yeah, so let's do that. So we have this beautiful button and cursor, pointer, and we can give it some hover as well to make it a little bit more interactive. And the background is going to be dark blue. Right, so just to make it a little bit more interactive, when you press it, it will start again. So that is that. And the last thing that we don't have is this pagination. Well, we call it pagination, but it really should be question number. So yeah, let's not call this. Let's just call it question number, basically. So this is going to be our question number. It starts at 0. Let's delete it as well. So question number, and we can save the reference to it as well. And then every time we render new question, we can change the question number. So we can just say in here, question number element in HTML equals, and then so to get the question number, what is the number of the actual question that we are passing in, we can find it by the index. So we can say questions index of question, and let's do +1 because it starts at 0. So this should give us the correct number. So you will see question number 1, and if I go to the next one, question number 2. So now it's showing us which one it actually is. Let's just make it a little bit. Let's do. This is a div. Okay, let's just question number. Just to have it a little bit centered. So 1, how are you? Very well. How old are you? 10. 1 out of 2 is correct. Right. This we should probably center as well. Let me just see what would be the best way. I can't. Okay. It's interesting. Yeah, we can just center the whole thing. So on the result, we will just do text align, center. So poor, 30, try again. Okay. Everybody happy with that?
Yep.
Yeah?
Yep.
What do you think, Christina?
Yeah, I'm too happy.
Is the result page is not 3, or we're not going to change the pagination?
So, yeah, we should delete this one when we change. We are right. So let's just go back here and we will say when we get the result, we just want to do the result question number element will be nothing. Yeah, that's bad. Actually, let's just add in here because I don't really like just the number. Even though it might be slick. If we style it more, it might be nice, but maybe we should do something like this. Sorry, I keep pressing the wrong control R. Right, so we have question number 1, and we go to here, question number 2, and then let me try again. Right, so now that we have that, we still have some time, I think. Yes, we still have half an hour. What do you want me to do? Like, we can either go a little bit more in depth of styling, so we can make it look a little bit better, maybe. Or if you want, we can try to load the questions from API and just make sure that we have like a dynamic list of questions, basically. What do you prefer?
Maybe load from the API.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Cool. So let's do that. So I have this note in here. We have some kind of API. I actually never worked with this API, so let's have a look at it. Open Trivia Database. Beautiful. So they have API. Yep. And you have any category, any difficulty, type, default encoding. Okay, so you don't need any authentication either, and you just call it like this, and it will give you some kind of questions. So let's have a look at it. And if I refresh, it will be always different questions. Great. So let's use this API. So we will create a new function where we would say, let's just do it down here. Actually, let's do that. So you would say load questions. And what we will be doing is we will be fetching from this API. Do you what do you want me to do? Do you want me to do async await, or do you want me to do promises?
Can be promises.
Promises. Cool. So we're doing a fetch from this API, and then.
Right? Like,
sorry.
Yeah, so it's just that. Just so I'm clear on async await and promises is the same, right? So it's the same result.
Yeah, it will be the same result. It's just different way of writing it. Yeah.
Because I keep on just using the two. Is it wrong, like to have? Because I would put like async await in my function and then have the fetch then. What?
Yeah, you can use both, but if you do async, if you make this function as a async function and then you use promises inside, that's fine. But when you use this, so for example, if I would say this is my async function, right, and then I would use it somewhere, and I would say load question, then you kind of it doesn't really matter that much, or the same way that you would do in here you would do then the way that it's written now, you're not actually taking advantage of the async, right? So if you want to use async, then you should do await. So you would do const date response, and you would do await fetch, and then you would actually be using the async. Without actually doing the await, there is no point really doing the async. If that makes any sense.
Yes, I'm just wondering, what does it add to have this async awaits versus not having it?
It's just different way of writing it. There is no advantage really.
So basically, async await just adds, because right now you're saying just put fetch and then it doesn't need to be.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, create a const response. Whereas if you just do a fetch, you're not creating a.
So we can let's write it both ways, because why not? So we can do load question, and I will show you how to write it in both ways. So we can do this, and we can do. So now we have the actual response. So in here we will say response const data.
Just to mention something in the question for Tom, like which one to use, it really depends. You use whichever you want. The thing is, like, in most cases, they will do the same thing. In some cases, the promise will give you more versatility to what async gives you. One of the reasons is to be dealing with the chain of thens, for example. That in that case, using promise, it's give you better benefit than using async, but it really comes down like they either do the same thing or you get a little bit an extra benefit using promises whenever that applies, right, Tom?
Yeah. So in some cases, the chaining of promises is really powerful and it's really good to use it. As well, in some cases, using async is quite good, because you can do try and catch. You can catch the exceptions. So it really depends on the application. It doesn't make difference if you use one or the other, but there are scenarios where one might be a little bit more suitable, but the result will be the same anyway. Especially, so I would say, like, as if I should generalize it, I would say if you have more than one promise, or if you have more than if you, for example, if you in your results of this promise, if you have more kind of error scenarios than one, then I would probably use promises, because if you have more error scenarios in async, then you would have to do multiple try and catches. So you would have to do try and catch, and then again you would have to do try and catch, right? Which is not very good.
Okay.
Right. But in promises you can handle it just with chaining, so you don't really have to worry about that too much. So so in some scenarios it's just better to use async await. In some scenarios it's better to use promises, but there shouldn't be really any real difference between them. There might be actually a little bit of performance difference. I think there might be, but I'm not 100% sure about it, because async await might be on different layer, different level of the language than the promises, because promise is basically just an object, while async await is kind of like a native thing to JavaScript. But I'm not 100% sure about it. I would have to look at it. It will definitely not have any performance difference to any kind of normal applications that you're using. Only if you writing something very, very edge case where you need like super speed of I don't know what, then yeah, maybe there will be some consideration, but most of the time you will not see the difference.
I think the point is that you start using both, and the more you code, the more you start finding which one benefits you in a certain scenario. So once you know both, you will identify, okay, in this case, it's better for me to use this one or that one.
Yeah, exactly. You will be able to kind of predict a little bit. What I was saying with the try and catch is, so if you look at the fetch, especially the fetch, it actually has this double error scenario. So when you call a fetch, you could get an error from that, right? And then if you don't get an error, you have your response, and you need to parse the JSON, and you could get an error in there as well. So basically, with the async await, the way that I wrote it now in here is very optimistic. That means I am not expecting anything to fail, right? And with this API, I probably wouldn't expect anyway. So if you have some API and you know that something could go wrong, or maybe it depends on the user input or something like that, then what you would really have to do is you would have to do something like this. So you would do your response and you would put it in the try catch, right? Yeah, so in here you would have your response, and if it failed, you would do something. So you would say console log error. Let's just for now let's just do console log. So this is your console log error. But now you need to parse it. You need to do this, right? You need to do response JSON. So you would have to do basically you could do it in here. So you could do response the JSON. You could do it like this, but then this error is kind of you can't really distinguish about what the error is, right? Because you don't know if this failed or this failed, let's say. So what you really normally do is you want to know if it's a request error or if it's a parsing error. So you would have to do something like this, where you would do, and I would definitely not recommend this. So you could do kind of try catch inside of the try catch. Right, so you would do const data so you could do something like this, but I would not recommend doing this nested try and catch. Or the other way around it would be to actually define the variables outside. So you could say response and data, and you could just say response is await here, right? And then you would basically do request error, and then you could do another try and catch. Oh, sorry, no, right. So you could do something like this. So it kind of becomes very wordy, and you have these two blocks that you don't, would you really need them? So yeah, so that's the one thing to kind of consider. Like in this particular case, try and catch might not be the best thing to use. Maybe promises are much easier to use, where you can just do basically catch, like this, right? So and stuff like that. So yeah, it really depends on the scenario. But in this case, let's just not worry about errors for now, because this API is probably not going to return any errors.
Yeah.
And let's continue with this. So we have our function where we basically getting the data, and then we passing them into JSON. We can even do this. Right. So now we need to load it. So on the render question, this might not be the best entry point for the application anymore. So what we could say is we could create another function that would say, where are we? Load question. So there we start quiz, for example. and in here we would load the question. So now load the question. So now if I do it with the async, so sorry, now what I wanted to show you is, no matter if you're using the load, if you're using the async or if you're using the promise, the result of these two is exactly the same, which is another, let's say, promise or an asynchronous kind of instruction, right? So now I can again do, I can either do .then with this, or I can just do await with this, right? I can use whatever I want in here, but just to show you, we did async await in here, and now I'm using it in other function, and I'm gonna use it as a promise, right? So now I'm gonna say these are my questions, and I'm gonna save them. So I'm gonna say, let's just make this into let.
So how do you know the structure of your JSON file? Well, I guess you have to have a look at your file.
Yeah, we're gonna have to have a look at it. There will be some changes required, I'm sure. So now we assign the questions to our questions, and we can basically kick off our render question.
So right now, questions will be a JSON text.
It will be JSON object, yeah.
Object, yeah. Perfect.
Right, so here we go.
Right. So you're saying, okay, load questions, then question, and
so we load the questions, we get them from the API, we save them in our object just so we can, because we work with it later, and then we render the first one, let's say. Yeah, we render the first one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because current question is going to be 0 as we start. Yeah.
We could. It would be probably better to do this in here, right? Like to do the whole reset in here, because so for example, in here, yeah. So actually, yeah, let's do that. So we can take this, which is the reset basically.
Yeah, the reset is at the start quiz rather than at when you click the button.
Yeah, exactly. So we can restart in here just to make sure that we have everything the latest basically, and we don't need this anymore. So we do render question, yep. And then we do start quiz. And in here we should do start quiz as well, start quiz. Right. So you start the quiz from the beginning basically. So let's see if that, well, actually it's not gonna work because we have different. So what do they do? Let me just use Postman. I think I showed you this before. Right, so this is our response. We have something called results where the questions are. So that's our first change. So instead of getting so instead of doing this, so we can do equals await and data results. Right. We can do either that, or we could just do dot results in here, basically. So actually, let's do that because then we can keep this one a little bit neater. And then in here we can rename this to data, and we can say data results. Okay. And then what else is there? And then we have category type difficult question. So we have the question, that's correct answer. So we have the actual text rather than the index. And then we have incorrect answers. So, okay. So they basically they have one correct answer and then 3 incorrect answers. render. So
Quite
what we
different.
yeah, so we could use that, or we can just convert it to whatever structure we like, because why not? I mean, we are consuming this data, we can do whatever we want with it. So what we can do is we can just say results, and then we can map those results into our structure that we already created. So we will return an object where it will be question, will be question.question, and the answers will be
Problem is you want to randomize the correct answer within the.
Yeah, otherwise it will be always the first one, wouldn't it? Yeah. Yeah. We can do that. So I wonder if there is a function for that. I'm actually not sure.
Yeah, I guess just have it as the number one. We don't care, just to see how it looks.
Yeah. So now we will have answer, which will be the question. What is it called again? Correct answer and incorrect answer. So we're going to do correct answer and question incorrect answers. Have you seen this dot syntax before?
Yes, it's when you want to change an object to a array. Is that right? Oh.
No, it's more. It's called spread, and it basically means. So I am creating an array, and I know that this is just a text, right? And I know that this is array. So I want to basically take everything from that array and just make it on this, another indexes of this array rather than being array inside of array. So I spread this one inside of the one that I'm creating.
Got it.
And the correct answer is going to be 0 for now. Okay, so now we basically just change the structure of this, and that should work. Let's see if it works. Oop. It's not a function. Of course. Right, here we go. So we're having our question and we have the answers. Obviously, dragon is going to be wrong. There's another one, salamander, and we can go through them like this.
It's quite hard.
And yeah. And we have 2 out of 10 correct. And if we try again, it will load new ones. So that's pretty much full game now we created in 2 hours, which is not too bad. Three out of 10. Yeah. Cool. So we still have a little bit of time. So let me just check. I don't actually know if there is something built in for randomizing array. There isn't. That's a shame. Let's use the Dernstedtfeld shuffle algorithm. Oh wait, there was some. Oh, this is just ES6. Okay, well, let's do that. Dernstedtfeld algorithm. So let's just do const.
Hi, I'm Dernstedtfeld. I'm famous for
shuffling.
The shuffling function in JavaScript.
Yeah. So now we can do a. So let's not get the current answer, and then what we need to do is actually we will have to wrap this up into this. Right. So now we have the question and answers. Now you need to actually. Now we need to shuffle the answers so we can do. Or actually, why we can just call it in here. So shuffle array. Shuffle array, and then we will do parse question. Correct answer equals answers index of question correct answer. And that's that, and then we just return parse question. Right, so now that should give us randomized, so let's see. Oh, nope. Answers isn't defined.
Correct answer. Oh, no.
There we go. Okay, so index of undefined answers, parse question answers, index of question correct answer, shuffle array. Okay, so this shuffle array didn't work. Oh, it's gonna shuffle the original array. Well, that's not really nice. So it's basically manipulating the array that we gave it to, which is never a good idea.
So you mean it manipulates the original and basically changes it?
Yeah, it manipulates the original, which is kind of, you shouldn't, you should try to stay away from mutating stuff, because it's just never a good idea.
Create the second array and kind of within the shuffle array, maybe.
So basically, what we need to do is we need to do this, and then we need to do shuffle array answers, and then we can just do that. This is ES6. This is like a newer JavaScript. If you have a variable that is the same name as you would like it to be in your object, you don't need to do this basically. You can just do answers, and it's smart enough to pick it up. So now, hopefully, right. So now let's try it. So which French duo had UK hits in 1996?
Yeah.
Which one?
First one.
Air. Nice. Yeah. Moons, Miranda, Ariel, Umbrella, Titan, orbit which planet?
Let's say Jupiter. I don't know.
I think so. Nope. Who is the main character of Metal Gear Solid?
Solid Snake.
Which one?
Solid Snake.
Is it the first one? Oh no, it's not. Which of these in Star Trek series is not Klingon food? Jesus. I have no idea. Toby Fox Megalomania was first used there. Okay. What? What does the term MIME stand for? Multipurpose interface.
Should be the fourth, no? Mail exchange?
No. Just for EMS, what is the name of island that consists in B? Yay! At least we saw that it wasn't the first one, even though it was a complete coincidence. If your job were a hippies, which would do horse? Choose a bizarre adventure. Well, let's just try something. Right. So, 3 out of 10, we saw that some of them work on different indexes. So that's random enough. So yeah, so that's pretty much it. How do you feel about it, guys? I think we are pretty much on time as well. I'm not gonna keep you too long today. But I think we did quite a lot in those 2 hours. I'm happy with that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Would you give us access to the code, or shall we?
I will. I can give you access to this code if you want to, but I think Vasil already prepared something on this address. So I think, let me just send it to you. I think there will be a very similar project on that address. Let me just shoot it over here, and let's have a look at it together while we still have some time. Yeah. Oh, look at it. He made it even nice. So yeah, very similar thing. So you can look at this code. It's gonna be very similar. I did have a quick read through it, so definitely I used some stuff that I seen in there, but I don't really know exactly what is in there. So you can I would recommend you to use this as a reference. But if you want, I can share this code with you as well. Well, any questions?
Not from me.
Christina?
No, that's fine.
No, Julio? Nothing? Okay, well, thank you for listening, guys, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, thank you. It was very fun.
Thank you, bye.
Bye. See you. Bye.